The need for man to overcome oppression and violence.
Man must evolve for all human conflicts.
A method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation.
Without resorting to oppression and violence.
Nonviolence is the answer to the crucial political and moral questions of our time.
We
are not another hashtag.
What's going on? This is not another hashtag, really just an opportunity for us to process through what is going on in the world and just really make an appeal to our black and brown brothers and sisters, as well as our white brothers and sisters, of things that need to change in society. This is what this is. It's just a great conversation, a dialogue between 5 black men chopping it up, talking about what's real.
What's up, y'all? It's Marquise.
I'm Christoph.
I'm Caleb. Aaron. Alante.
Yeah, and today, man, we're really just going to process through a lot of what the current events are. You all already know it. It's been on the hearts of everyone in the country. It really has seemed to kind of shake the world. But for us and our community, this is nothing new. And so it's unfortunate, but we have to add several more hashtags to the already existing hashtag kind of lexicon. You've got Ahmaud Arbery, you've got Breonna Taylor, and so many more that have just fallen in this current season. And so, man, these current events are really just taking us out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think at the same time too, though, I even kind of think back to like when They See Us came out. You know what I'm saying? Like the justice system when it comes to like black men being arrested, wrongfully for a crime they didn't do. And so I think the subject is big. I think that there's so much that we can unpack from this, and I'm excited to like dive into it and just kind of get you guys' thoughts on even just like currently how you're feeling, about Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and not being another hashtag. Because as a picture that I saw, it was kind of like a lot of different people who, over the past 10 years, who've been black and wrongfully killed. That thing hit me. It bothered me. I shed a few tears because I looked at it and I saw myself in there. And I'm like, man, these people are doing stuff that I would be doing. Right. Taking a job, going to the corner store, doing things that any of us could be doing. And I think a lot of times what happens is a lot of people don't feel that empathy towards it because it's like, well, that's not me. That's not my story. But it's not until you put yourself in that to where you start to feel it. So I'm just interested to know from you guys, like, where are you at mentally? Where's your heart at? How do you feel about everything that's going on right now in our world? And this is honestly an open letter to everybody that's watching, from our heart to theirs, in hopes that, this is not let's bash white people or anything like that, but let's, in us speaking, in us sharing our heart, hey, we just want to extend it in love, and hopefully in the most rawest, real way, that people will catch what we have to say and put those things in place to actually start to see that change happen. We can conversate all day long, we can talk, and hopefully what we're doing right now, will go to your homes and go to your schools, go to your gyms, your barbershops, wherever you're at, and you'll spark those same conversations that will hopefully create that unity, that change. And so I'm just interested in you guys, how you guys feeling about everything, and when you heard about Ahmaud Arbery, crazy thing about that is, it happened in February.
Right.
I thought it happened the second week in May. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But the fact that it happened and 2 months later we're just now hearing about it, so that just hit me. And so I'm just interested to know what you guys think. What's going on?
Shoot. I think the first thing that I felt was fear. I don't know if this is something that you guys experience, like as a black man. I try to mask some things with anger, with just I guess toxic masculinity. But in reality, I was genuinely scared. The fact that could have been me and Christoph. We live in very similar neighborhoods.
Yeah.
We're both residents in those neighborhoods, and the fact that it could have been any one of us is just literally terrifying. So I think the first thing was fear, then it was anger, and those two kind of meshed together for me.
Yeah. What about you, Lante?
So for me, I actually took the time to, I don't know about you guys, but what I like to do is I like to break down the situation, try to understand it. Like, how did we get to this moment? How did it get to that point where it was acceptable for him to get shot, right? And what's funny is that I didn't see it. My wife saw it first, And then she told me about it. She let me see the video. I'm like, man, why would they jump a man while he's running? Like, why would they go after him? And of course, I know that reports say that he was checking the spot over and over and over again, and scoping the spot out. But in my head, I'm like, okay, granted, he did do that, right? If he, say for instance, he did, what gives you the right to shoot him and kill him? Is it acceptable to shoot somebody just because of the fact that they invade your space? Is it okay to invade your space? Is it okay to do such a thing? I don't think so. It's not okay. And so for me, I had to look at it and say, okay, if I'm going to really dissect this thing, was it right? No, it wasn't. But at the same time, it's like, dang, I wish there were another way they could have handled the situation. And then I also look at the people. All right, who killed him? All right, this guy was 20 years of veteran in the police academy. 20 years? And your first response, right, is to take some black male out that was running. Yeah. Okay, what are they teaching in the police academy at this point? Where your mind automatically gets to that point where you want to go to the attack. That's what got me too. So when I look at this stuff, I try to dissect it to make sure that my emotions are real and that I'm not just becoming an aggressive person just for the sake of it, but I'm actually dissecting it. I'm actually looking at it, putting some logical behind it, because I don't want to just let my emotion just fester. I want to make sure that I actually have a point to actually be upset. Yeah. Sure enough,
I think that takes a lot of strength though, because I'm gonna be real with you. I ain't having much time to process like I was just like again, and so like I remember breaking. I was in my bed. I think I had just woke up from a nap or something like that. And when I saw it, I was like, "Yeah, I'm over it." You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm tired of seeing the same thing happen every single year, from Trayvon Martin all the way to now. And I'm sure there's things that happen and that we don't know about. Yeah. Clearly, we didn't know about this, until somebody brought it out. Right. But yeah, man. And I think there's a lot of people watching now that's like, I get what you're saying.
But I'm ready.
But you know what I'm saying. But like, I'm kind of interested in what you guys have to say. Like,
yeah, I get. It's been a minute, man. So for me, I feel like I had to take the same consideration. I had to take a moment and process through it. At times, I have just kind of jumped the gun and aggressively approached the situation, which is not good for me and my surroundings. Me being in majority white spaces most of the time, so I know I have to find a way to cope with those emotions. Also, just being transparent, like my wife's white, so I have to make sure, and I don't. When I'm processing in my home, like my wife, she knows the deal. She's down for it. I wouldn't have married if she didn't know. What's up? But I have to make sure that I'm guarding myself and processing well, so I'm not bringing that negativity into my home fully. Now, when you begin to look at the semantics and the specific details of this situation, specifically Ahmaud Arbery and even Breonna Taylor to that extent, there's no reason they should have been burned.
None.
The fact of the matter is, like, the facts are there, the facts are presented. I have, officers in my family. I've known officers for some time, several of them, man. And I know, to a certain extent, a lot of the training that they go through, there are multiple ways on their tool belt to disarm someone. You do not have to kill them. That's just the fact of the matter. Like, there are multiple ways to disarm someone. But this man wasn't doing anything. Like even if the situation was this man was not death was not the answer for him. That he was not deserving of that in that moment. So that's kind of the thing that gets me, is that there's always him or Breonna Taylor for that matter. Like, they just ran into her apartment. You know what I'm saying? No knock procedure. Ran in, let out 20 rounds into her home. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, this is not. These aren't. This is just like gross oversight, like negligence, racism at its finest, and I have to call it out for what it is, man. And I think that really is what the conclusion I came to when I was able to look at it, take a 30,000 foot view, survey everything. I was like, you know what, like, not only am I over it because this has happened so many times, but now, like, I'm even more motivated to open my mouth and say something, because, I think there's this idea of numbness that black people can get to, and so numb, kind of the idea you said with Trayvon Martin. If you look at the situation between Trayvon and Ahmaud, they're eerily similar. Eerily similar of how that went down, man. And of course,
just walking in the neighborhood.
Just walking in the neighborhood, man. And of course, those cases are 8 years apart. But it's still, you can see the pattern. You can see the pattern evolve year in and year out of like how nothing really has changed systemically, and therefore we can't see progress. And so that's what that leads me to is like, okay, now we challenge the system. Because I had grown numb over the last 8 years, and now like for whatever reason, man, this was the energizing I needed to begin to say, okay, I'm going to challenge the system, structures, and processes that are in front of me in order to see change, because like that is what I've been called to do.
That's good.
What's your favorite?
Yeah, man. My initial reaction was exactly what you said, Marquise. Again, I mean, it's just like to a point where it's exhausting, and I mean, we're all in our 20s, and a couple of you have brought up Trayvon Martin, and my journey into adulthood and into manhood, Trayvon Martin kind of stands out as like the pillar incident or case that kind of like brought this issue to light in modern America, and that may not be the case for everybody, but for me it's significant, and this story was just so similar, referring to the Arbery incident, and like you just kind of had to take a second to process it, because when something happens again, naturally, and not to sound insensitive, but you become desensitized, and we talk about this, we heard about this in May, and it happened in February. What has happened since then? You know what I'm saying? What has happened since then that we haven't heard about?
Because you think about it, I mean, during this time, a mother was hurting, a mother lost her child, but yet we knew nothing about this whole situation. Like I said, I thought it happened then, but
and it's probably happened like so many times since then, and you talk about he served on the police force for 20 years. What happened in those 20 years?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And like when you start to just kind of take a step back from the situation and process it, if that doesn't make you feel some type of way, I mean, you gotta look in the mirror, And, that's why I'm appreciative of this platform to kind of like really talk about those feelings. What's the root of that, and how do we help drive the conversation and hopefully lead that into action. But man, my initial reaction to that particular incident is just like, again, and when does it stop? Does it ever stop? And trying to be optimistic and not pessimistic,
But it also, I think what also kind of tags into the situation was that his son was involved too. It's like, okay, 20 years on the force, what were they teaching you? And then what did you start teaching your son? It's like, it's like, dude, now you've transitioned your son into this whole new thing of it's okay to kill a black man. If he's running running in our neighborhood and trying to cause or trespassing in some type of way.
Right.
It's like, no, it's not okay, man. Like, and that's why I said I had to survey it. Like, I had to make sure that my emotions were real. It wasn't like and like you said, I'm working in a space where my ethnicity, who I am, my color is not actually there all the time. It's me and some Caucasian brothers. Fine. All right. Well, I need to make sure that if I come in and I'm upset, or if they start talking about the situation that I've already surveyed, so I can make sure that I defend my right as a black male, because that's tough.
I think we're entitled as well. I just want to be clear. I think we're entitled to our off the jump emotion as well.
Exactly.
Let's be clear. If I see, mind you, I'm 25, so when I see a 25-year-old black man get murdered, I'm triggered. Naturally,
Yeah. All day.
it's like I saw myself get murdered. Like
Exactly.
I am triggered initially, so even before I know the facts, I'm still triggered. But even now to know that, like, oh, you know, all the things that have come out, like, okay, there actually were no calls made in the neighborhood to say that he was like trespassing. You know what I'm saying? Like he was checking in the house, but then there was also all of the different witness statements were saying that, like, oh yeah, several people have walked in and looked at the structure of that house, like, without,
Exactly.
and there's been nothing wrong with them. So like, so first of all, he's one of many that have done that.
Yep.
Secondly, like the reports in which, you know, the men who killed him that they gave were false.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we're just staring in the middle of a situation of like, and I think what frustrates me most about this situation, if I can just be perfectly honest, is that it takes a black man being spotless almost for the situation to be 100% spotless in order for people to see the injustice of it.
That's right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like the reason why this is an issue is because he didn't have a gun. Like the reason why I feel like, to be honest with you, a lot of our white brothers and sisters care about this is because he was completely unarmed. He wasn't reaching for anything. He wasn't in a car situation. He wasn't standing in a position. He was in a position of vulnerability actually. Yeah. So he wasn't standing in a position where he was like actually dominating the situation. Mm-hmm. Really, he was in a position of vulnerability or running. And so we see somebody get murdered in cold blood, and it was like, well, the video is what made it. You know, come to national attention. We've had video for all of these things. Yes. The fact of the matter is, what made something change is the public outrage. Mm-hmm. Why? And I hate to say this, but like, black people have been screaming this from the rooftops for years. This is happening. Like these things are happening in the world.
Yeah.
And then, fortunately, but also kind of sadly as well, like when white people start to scream, all of a sudden people care.
Yeah. That's true.
And it's like,
why do we have to go that far just to do that?
Yes.
That's where it gets so upsetting. It's like, dang, it takes your own kind for you to finally get it.
Yeah.
I saw somebody post probably right after that. He was like, "Let me get it straight with y'all, white people." He said, "Help us live," and that hurt. That kind of hit me because it was like, I get what he was saying. You know, like it. Unfortunately, as we've seen, it kind of takes the other side to speak up and say something for anybody to really care or hear. But at the same time, though, it I don't know. It just made me feel some kind of way to where it's like, why can't you just care just because I'm a human being?
Yeah.
No, go.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it just, man, it makes me emotional, honestly. And I'm gonna be fully transparent about this. I haven't watched the video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I cannot watch the video, you know. Because I talked about the whole desensitivity thing.
Yeah.
Like I can't watch that, me personally, and I don't judge anybody that has, you know. But the facts of the case aren't even what make it like egregious to me, you know. Mm-hmm. The facts of people have looked at this house, or like he didn't. Let me think about how to phrase this. They talked about, they reported a string of robberies in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And the outcome of that was someone similar to all of us being murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And in no world can I connect those two dots without racism being the bridge.
Yeah.
Because nobody was threatened, nobody was attacked. It was broad day. He didn't have a weapon, you know, and those are the first. It's crazy to me that like we have to check all these boxes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, a black man was
Yeah.
killed. Let's be emotional about it. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, damn, why is that the first thing? We have to like clear this man's resume. You know, I saw some like ridiculous article get shared about a shoplifting incident he had
3 years ago.
3 years ago. And I'm like,
Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
he was murdered. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what is the action that makes you deserving of murder? You know what I'm saying? And it's just like the fact that there are even people who don't have an emotional response to something like this,
Yeah.
or don't their moral compass is not like challenged or just something to me is like it's so mind blowing. It makes me, you know, I don't have the answer for it, obviously, you know, but
It took me.
I cannot comprehend it.
Yeah.
You know, I just
It took me. I was with you. Like I couldn't watch it. Why did I end up watching it? It was like midnight of all times, and I was like, I got to. And so when I did, I think that was the moment when I broke, and I think that's why my response, like I didn't act out of anger, start posting on Facebook, like Instagram and stuff like that, but it hit me because it was like, wow, like y'all shot him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You ran to get your gun. You ran to get your gun.
chased him.
Yeah.
You chased him down.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It was never about his son was with him, and it was never about this is what it takes to kill somebody or defend somebody. To me, it was solely about you can kill a black man
Yeah.
Yeah. And get away with it.
and get away with it. You know what I'm saying? Like
And
that's how I perceive it. It was never about son, let's defend our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Let's serve justice.
Yeah.
No. It is solely about
Yeah.
Right.
being able, having the authority to kill a black man.
It wasn't a thought, it was your action.
Yeah.
Like you acted on it.
Yeah.
Because your actions tell the story
Yeah.
about how you thought it was okay. No, you didn't have to think about it at the time, but you knew that by the time you did, and you looked at it, you said, you know what, I might be able to get away with this.
Yeah.
I mean, they low key did for 2 months.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
there was no a person was killed in a county and nothing was done about it for 2 months. Like that's not justice. And I think that's the biggest issue as well that I have at this point is like I'm trying to figure out what makes this so as I'm processing through, as I'm mourning, as I'm grieving this situation, I'm also trying to figure out what makes this situation different and why is everybody so loud all of a sudden. Like that is honestly like a thought of mine. I know that sounds wildly pessimistic, but I'm just like, why all of a sudden, why does it take this? And what about this makes this the loudest thing in the world?
Matter of fact, we're talking about Trayvon 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that should have that right
That should
there.
have been the snap.
Oh, that
should have been the snap.
yeah, that didn't do it.
Skittles and what else? Energy drink?
Yeah.
Ice tea or something.
Ice tea, yeah.
And a hood? That's it?
Yeah.
You shoot him because of that?
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, these things aren't new. So that's why I asked the question, what about this made this different? And I think the point in which I've come to is really just this idea of like, man, this kind of like, I'm hesitant to say it, but almost this like this faux social justice.
Yeah.
Like social media has really beefed up the cry of social justice.
Yeah.
And so the amplification of something, really anything for that matter, but the amplification of something like this has really it rings a lot louder than maybe it did in 2012.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
That would make people, and I think again it is traumatic. I don't blame you for not watching it.
Yeah.
It's a traumatic
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So when you see something traumatic happen, I think it does something to the psyche that tells you that this is not how this is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that is naturally what happens is that people are weeping over the humanity of it all. Like, oh, a person was killed. Now, to tack on to, oh, a black person was killed, which then kind of like exposes the large heap pile of trash that was swept under the rug of racism in America. I think that might be the legitimate reason that, like, oh, some of the dust got from under the rug. And now we're seeing it.
They were weeping.
Yeah.
Past tense.
Yeah.
Past tense.
Yeah.
It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll wait till the next one.
Right.
I want to hit on what you said about the fact that they went 3 years in the past to find his information. I think it's absolutely crazy. Like, if we really think about it, whenever it comes down to a black man in America, as far as celebrity, as far as low status and whatever, it's so easy to find information on us and continue to put the blame on us. But when it comes down to our white counterparts, they could have done something like 2 weeks ago, and it won't ever come up. Ever.
Look at mass shootings.
I mean,
Mass shootings is a perfect example.
Yeah.
perfect
Okay.
example.
He was a police officer for 2 decades.
Yeah.
But when digging into the past, the story is about the victim.
Every time.
Every
What?
time.
Every time.
But again, let's look at
it goes back to what you were saying. It was so easy to find something on the black guy.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a guy who served like 20 years. And your first reaction, I know I keep going back to that, but it's like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
And if your first reaction was to kill this young black man, that means that your reaction from your 20 years being on the force is shoot first, think later.
Ask questions later. Yeah.
That's it. And it still says what you said. It's racism.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Like, this kid didn't have, and then the crazy thing is, the kid didn't have anything on him but shorts, gym shoes, and a jacket or a t-shirt. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. That's.
And I'm confused as to what was the threat. I mean, other than his skin tone, what was the threat? I mean, he was hunted. I just don't understand how 2 armed men are intimidated and scared.
Man, you said it right.
I don't understand
The
that.
skin tone,
That doesn't make sense to me.
It don't,
The
but
skin
like,
tone,
does
man.
it?
at all. It's
That's
like,
the threat.
what about you feels so threatened when you have the upper hand and you are the oppressor and the aggressor? Like, what about that situation makes you feel like your life's in danger? I don't understand that. And I still hear people trying to justify the situation. I
There's
still
no
hear people
justification.
trying. Yeah, there is none, but people are. They don't get
I
it.
think you're getting to a point that's so important, and I think what you have to do is we have to deconstruct in the microaggressive ways how we get to that point.
Right.
So I've heard it said this way, and it has been kind of interesting for me to process through. But I believe, so let me be honest with you, a lot of these things happen in this way because majority culture, white people, do not have exposure to people of African descent, aka black people.
Yeah.
So they don't have them in their relationships, they don't have them in their homes, in their families, and so it's not normalized. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's not normalized behavior. Majority, right? And that's what we're talking about. It really just, I would say everyone, but majority of people in the majority culture, white people, do not have those diverse relationships. And so what you haven't done is you've never been able to really contextualize what it means to be in a relationship with someone who is black.
Yeah.
Therefore, they can't contextualize you or me or you or you or you.
Yeah.
They don't really understand you because they never had a relationship with you.
But it sounds almost like an excuse, though.
It's correct,
Yeah.
but let's again process through with that. It is an excuse. You should be in a relationship in a diverse community.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, if you never are, then all you see is what is propagated by media.
Right.
And so all you have an understanding of is, oh well, when I see black people, in this TV show or this movie or on the news, I see negative things, and therefore the connotation in which I have of black people, particularly black men, is a negative view. And so I live in fear because of what I've seen. And it's even the conversation of like, let's look at the microaggressive behavior that continues to push that stereotype down into the world. If I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're like, man, they want to tell me a funny story, or something about like, oh, I was talking with this dude, and then this big black dude comes behind me. If it's like a white friend of mine, he's like, man, this big black dude comes behind me and wants and it's just like looking at me strange. And it's like, okay, one, why was the detail that he was black important?
Right.